Hello, this is the Lord's Legion and welcome to the best villains ever, the show in which I talk about a specific villain and talk about their backstories, abilities, greatest feats, and why I love them so much. Now originally this episode was supposed to be the special for Detective Pikachu, but due to personal reasons I just didn't have the time to do this episode until now. But since we're still going to have this CGI remake of the original Pokemon movie coming out this year, I thought this was a perfect time into exploring this specific villain. The villain in question, of course, being Mewtwo, in which I do know it's a little debatable to label him as a villain, but since he has been a major antagonist for several Pokemon movies and video games, I thought it still does qualify him as a villain. So without further ado, let's begin with his backstory, and bear in mind I am going to be focusing on his anime incarnation as it is supposedly the definitive origin for Mewtwo. Now, unlike previous Pokemon from the past, Mewtwo has been created by a group of scientists led by Dr. Fuji, in which he had gained a sample of Mew's DNA and genetically tampered with the DNA so that they can create a brand new life form in the hopes that it would become the most powerful Pokemon to ever live. During his earlier development, Mewtwo's only companion was of course Amber 2, who was a clone of Fuji's deceased daughter. But unfortunately, much like the original counterpart Amber, Amber 2 sadly perished, with her last words being "life was wonderful." Over time, Mewtwo's rage had grew even stronger as soon as he discovered the revelation that he was only meant as a disposable experiment, only for Mewtwo to go in a much darker path as soon as he met up with Giovanni from Team Rocket, in which he had promised Mewtwo that he would help him to develop his powers ever more so long as they remain partners. However, Giovanni's true intention for Mewtwo was that he would use the Pokemon as his personal weapon to fulfill his very goals. But as soon as Mewtwo found out that Giovanni was only using him as a weapon, Mewtwo felt just as betrayed as how he did when he discovered that he was only meant as an experiment. And much like how Mewtwo destroyed the lab that created him, the legendary Pokemon leveled Giovanni's mansion and destroyed his arm in the process. And with all of those events that took place, Mewtwo believed that all of the humans and Pokemon should be exterminated, and instead he, alongside the other cloned Pokemon, should become the dominant species. Now looking back on Mewtwo's origin story, it is a classic case of an experiment gone wrong, or more appropriately, an experiment that became too advanced for its own good. And while Dr. Fuji and the other scientists were successful into creating one of the most powerful Pokemon in the world, they had pretty much undermined Mewtwo's importance to the point that they considered him to be nothing more but an experiment. And because Mewtwo was manipulated by evil people, he was ultimately consumed by his inner pain and rage to the point that he wanted to exterminate all of humanity. And while his acts were extreme, Mewtwo was a misguided soul who was eventually redeemed. Now, every single Pokemon in any region has their own powers and abilities at their disposal, and Mewtwo is no exception. And to list some of his powers, Mewtwo has the abilities of flight, levitation, hypnosis, psionic, telekinesis, telepathy, force fields, and can even teleport. But not only that, Mewtwo also has the ability of electricity control, as well as water control, ice control, weather control, and to top it all off, Mewtwo is omnilingual and has been shown to have gifted intellect. And in terms of his moves, Mewtwo does have a lot to go off of, but to list some of his most notable moves, he does have the ability of Confusion, Disable, Psywave, Future Sight, Psycho Cut, Power Swap, Aura Sphere, Amnesia, Psystrike, Hidden Power, Hyper Beam, Psychic, Shadow Ball, Poison Jab, and Dream Eater. But like I said, Mewtwo can also learn a lot more moves than just the ones that I have just previously mentioned. And if that isn't insane enough, Mewtwo also has two other evolutions, of course being his X and Y forms. Both forms amping him up even further and making him one of the most powerful Pokemon in every game. Now, there's no denying that Mewtwo has achieved plenty of incredible feats over the years, however it can be a little tricky to pinpoint on what can be considered canon, so once again I'm mostly going to be focusing on the original anime incarnation of Mewtwo, since he has the most feats to go off of and is also the most popular. For starters, Mewtwo completely obliterated a lab by tearing it apart from the inside and blowing it up completely. He also blew up Team Rocket's base and created a mushroom cloud out as a result. Not to mention that he also disintegrated several Pokeballs with just a wave of his hand, and can even overpower 2 robots that were designed to seal his powers. And what's interesting is that according to Giovanni, without control, Mewtwo's power could destroy or at the very least burn the whole world, which does prove that Mewtwo is a force of nature. Not to mention that Mewtwo had once stopped a charging Rhyhorn in its tracks and sent it flying backwards, as well as being capable of clashing evenly with Mew, in which some consider Mew to be much stronger than Mewtwo. And he can repeatedly clash with Mew's barrier for an extended period of time to the point that he can create a powerful explosion in the process. And with that said clash, he could turn Ash into stone. And with his telekinesis alone, Mewtwo had once caused a man extreme pain just by holding him in midair, as well as implementing his telekinesis to casually shield himself from Charizard's flamethrower. Not to mention that Mewtwo can also block a punch from Ash without even moving, as well as erasing everyone's memories of the original events from the first film. And with the use of his telepathy, he can even block all Pokemon around him from using their special abilities. Mewtwo is also capable of devastating a stadium with rapid Shadow Balls, as well as blasting through one of Mew's bubbles, in which could catch Ash right after he was sent flying, and can even knock back Mew by sending her over to the cloud layer. In terms of speed, Mewtwo can fly at extremely high speed from Team Rocket's base to New Island, causing his armor to rip apart, and can quickly fly across the lake while telekinetically carrying a dozen Pokemon. Plus Mewtwo can easily react to a blast of electricity, and can even react to Pikachu 2 and stopping him in mid-air. And in terms of durability, Mewtwo had survived a massive explosion he created from the lab explosion, which seemingly didn't harm him in the slightest, and had also survived from a psychic blast from Mew, which had only made him all the more pissed than anything else. And of course Mewtwo has also appeared in other mediums as well, most recently of course being a major character for Detective Pikachu, in which it may or may not be connected to the anime universe. We also have his appearance within Pokemon Origins, which is mostly a retelling of the original manga series. Not to mention that Mewtwo has always been a fan favourite within the Super Smash Bros. Series, as he has appeared in Melee, Smash 4 and even Ultimate. And depending on who you ask, Mewtwo has been a lot stronger in every incarnation. And lastly, Mewtwo is going to be the main villain once again in the retelling of the first movie, which I think might be a complete reboot, but that has yet to be seen. Now like I said, Mewtwo's origin may be just a simple experiment gone wrong, but that doesn't necessarily make him any less compelling, because at heart Mewtwo is just a misunderstood soul who is trying to look for his own place in the world. But due to the fact that he was manipulated by evil men who just wanted to use him for their own needs, this had led Mewtwo into a dark path in which he wanted to wipe out all of the human race, believing that there is no such thing as a good human being. And even though he is considered to be one of the most powerful Pokemon in the world, and has been stated to be more than capable of destroying the world if he really desires, the only thing Mewtwo really wants is to look for his place and just be accepted. So because of his rather tragic backstory, as well as just how powerful he really is, and on top of that being a really compelling character in his own right, this is why I personally believe that Mewtwo is one of the best villains of all time. So are you a huge fan of Mewtwo, and what is your personal favourite incarnation of this legendary Pokemon? Comment below and share some thoughts. And as always, thank you guys for watching this video. Please like and subscribe. Take care and have a good one.